Hello, my name is Tim Parody. I'm with the Center for Digital Strategies. I'm here with Paul Dickard, VP of External Communications at AECOM. Paul, welcome to Tuck. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tim.
So I'd love to ask you just a couple questions about your use of social technology at AECOM, which is a big B2B. So it's one of those companies that may not necessarily spring to mind when people think social and the workplace.
Well, what we're doing with social media is really oriented around thought leadership. We are a professional services firm. We provide engineering services for people all around the world. What we find is that a lot of the knowledge that we have within our organization is really tied up inside the brains of all of our people. So trying to get that exposed in a way that takes advantage of all the channels out there for us, social media has become sort of the front and center opportunity for us to do that. We're currently pretty well invested with Twitter, and all of our businesses actually are looking to deploy Twitter as a place where they can post content and redeploy other content as they come across it, sort of make sure that they're following the trends in the industry. We're starting to branch out in a few other areas. LinkedIn, we're pretty big proponent of LinkedIn groups because we think that that's a tremendous thought leadership platform for the expertise that we have to offer.
Okay, so then LinkedIn groups within the company, if person A needs information on something, person B can chime in and say, yes, this is something I've worked on, or this is something I have some knowledge about. I can contribute that way? Is that
yeah, there's an internal component to it, but for us it really is if we wanted to establish ourselves as a leader in a certain practice area, let's say sustainable building, we would create a LinkedIn group that would be oriented around that theme. And then we'd sort of channel the discussion around LinkedIn into that group so that there would be a natural network of people who have the same interest in that subject area coming to the AECOM experts who are moderating and leading that LinkedIn group. So it becomes more of a place where we can curate the discussion as opposed to actually posting content, but it associates the thought leadership with AECOM in that space.
So what challenges have you faced as you've tried to deploy some of these social technologies in the workplace?
The biggest challenge that we have at AECOM is that we are because of our professional services firm, we are actually a billable hours type of business model. So from a standpoint of actually getting our thought leaders, our subject matter experts to spend time in the social media channels, that takes away from revenue generation. And we're very concerned about that. We want to make sure that we're not misappropriating their time too much in this effort. How we've overcome that is to explain that this really is about business development. What we're trying to do is give you an opportunity to invest a little bit of time, explain what your expertise is, share your credentials with the outside world, your client base, and allow them to sort of self-discover the information that you have to offer. And then you've already done your pre-selling for them. So it takes a little bit of the burden away from trying to communicate up front. And now they can see that there is value there. There is also value in being able to go to a trade conference or to be with a client and to be able to say or hear that, gee, I just recognize that AECOM has written a post about high-speed rail and what's going on in the United States about that. That's interesting that you take the lead in that particular area, which is something that we're trying to do.
Interesting. So you have a lot of opportunities, it would seem, then, for getting your story out there in a way that'll help justify that expense and that time later on in a billable hours company. That's interesting. So what's on the horizon then when you look ahead and try to see where social might fit with AECOM in the future? What do you see?
It's a very challenging thing to look at the future and find out what. I think the issue for us really is to understand what it means to be a thought leader. So for us, it is really generating content. I think social media puts a real big burden on companies these days to think about what they have to offer. And if you are merely a content curator, you're not really adding any value to it. You're just republishing somebody else's information. That's fine if that's the space you want to play in. But if you're truly a thought leader, you really have to be generating original content, and you have to be elevating that content to people who you're trying to influence. So from our perspective, it really is about identifying what's the content that we can own, what we can create, what we can get out there, associate the AECOM name with it. And then it's also making sure that we know how to identify those influencers. It's not enough for somebody in one of our Twitter channels to have 2,000 followers. If that person isn't influential in that space, that could be a lot of relatives, friends, and family who are their followers. But identifying who that person is and then wrapping up a dialogue around that or engaging that person in a dialogue is really where we find our challenge to be.
Interesting. Well, that's great. I want to thank you on behalf of the Center for Digital Strategies for joining us. We've been with Paul Dickard, VP of External Communications at AECOM. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Tim.